It's February 2004 and we're at the Oscars. The Return of the King walks onto the stage and walks off with 11 wins.
I myself am sitting pretty on 43.
Every single category it was nominated for, a world record. In that moment, the trilogy isn't just celebrated, it's recognized as the greatest fantasy trilogy ever made. And for many fans, that won't ever change.
It's particularly good. Salted pork.
Peter Jackson and his team achieved something rare. They managed to bring Tolkien's world to life in a way that felt both massive and deeply human. And for the most part, they did it with remarkable precision. But, for some fans, something wasn't quite right.
Shall I describe it to you? Or would you like me to find you a box?
Because if you read the books before watching the movies, you probably felt a moment where things didn't line up. Not enough to break the magic, but enough to make you stop and go, wait, that's not how he was in the book. We're talking about Denethor. In Tolkien's story, Denethor is one of the most complex figures in the entire legendarium. A man crushed by responsibility, brilliance, grief, and a creeping sense of doom he can't shake. But in the films, he's reshaped into something quite different. And that's what this video is about. How Denethor went from one of Tolkien's most tragic creations to one of the most flattened characters in the trilogy, and why that change matters more than it first appears. So, let's start at the beginning. To really understand what changed, we need to look at who Denethor was in the books, the man Tolkien made him. You see, in the books, Denethor is a steward, a man tasked with holding Gondor until the return of the rightful king. Tolkien paints him as proud, intelligent, and at times cruel, but always deeply tied to his role and his city. He is not evil in the way Sauron is. He is human, vulnerable, and tragically flawed. The films, however, amplify a darker, almost tyrannical side.
Perhaps you come to explain this.
We see a ruler who berates his son, manipulates his servants, and descends into madness seemingly overnight.
Which is, of course, ridiculous.
Some of this is cinematic shorthand. Film needs instant clarity. The audience must feel Denethor's descent within 2 hours, not over hundreds of pages. But in doing so, the adaptation flattens the nuance. The calculated, measured despair that Tolkien imbued in Denethor is often replaced with overt theatrics, flaring anger, dramatic pacing, and cinematic moments meant to shock rather than explain.
Boromir was loyal to me!
Take, for example, the scene in which he sends Faramir into the Pelennor without support. In the books, this is a moment of tragic misjudgment. Denethor sees the Palantíri and believes all is lost. The film, though, presents it as sheer malice or cowardice. His motivations are more visually amplified than psychologically explored. Cinematically, this makes for a striking image, but it risks making Denethor seem like a villain rather than a tragic figure. The movies also remove one of the main reasons Denethor breaks in the books, the Palantíri. Tolkien shows him using it to understand the enemy, only to be slowly worn down by the images Sauron feeds him. His fear grows over time as he becomes convinced that Gondor can't win.
Then let's just have his head and be done with it.
The films skip that entirely. Instead, they jump straight to the outcome. We see a few intense shots, the shaking hands, the wild eyes, the firelit close-ups, and we're told he's already lost his grip. It's fast and clear, but it also cuts out the long build-up that made his despair understandable. Visually, those scenes work, but they simplify something important. Denethor wasn't just mad. In the books, he's a man overwhelmed by what he's seen and by what he believes is coming. His collapse is rooted in fear and responsibility, not random hysteria. One of the most revealing parts of Denethor's character is his relationship with Faramir. In the books, it's complicated. There's pride, pressure, love, and a grief he doesn't know how to express. Denethor clearly favored Boromir, and after losing him, that grief twists into impossible expectations for Faramir. It's painful, but it isn't simple cruelty, it's a father breaking in slow motion. The films make this dynamic much sharper. We see Denethor openly tearing Faramir down, questioning his worth, and sending him on a mission he's unlikely to survive. It's dramatic and effective, but it also flattens the relationship into something closer to a father who just doesn't care about his son. Tolkien's version shows a man crushed by loss and fear. The movies shift it toward a straightforward conflict. By removing the Palantíri, like we talked about earlier, the films make Denethor's collapse seem like the result of his own madness, rather than the product of Sauron's manipulation. This shift changes how audiences perceive him. He goes from a tragic figure caught in forces beyond his control to someone failing purely through personal weakness.
Where
Where is he? Get out of the way! I'm gonna kill him!
It also robs the story of a compelling contrast. In Tolkien's narrative, Denethor and Theoden provide two very different examples of leadership under siege. One crushed by despair, the other revived by hope and counsel. The films touch on this contrast visually. Theoden rallies while Denethor collapses, but without the Palantir's influence, Denethor's downfall feels less a tragic foil to Theoden and more like a personal flaw. The moral tension, the way hope and despair are weighed against duty, is muted. So, does the movie Denethor actually work, or is he just a downgrade of the character Tolkien wrote? The films give us intensity and spectacle, anger, panic, and his dramatic end. It's gripping, cinematic, and it creates tension. But without the Palantir and the slow build of despair, his breakdown can feel sudden and unearned. He risks coming across not as a tragic figure crushed by circumstance, but as a man who simply loses it. It's understandable why the filmmakers made this choice. There's a lot to cover in a single movie: war, multiple character arcs, and epic battles. But the result is a Denethor who works for cinematic drama but loses much of the nuance and tragedy that make his story so powerful in the books. Denethor's story is, at its core, a tragedy of love, pride, and despair. He is a man defined by his role and his fear, a father who loves too fiercely, a steward who cannot endure the visions he has been given. The films capture much of this, translating internal struggle into cinematic spectacle. Sometimes they succeed spectacularly, sometimes nuance is lost in favor of drama. But perhaps that's fitting. Denethor is, after all, a figure who balances on the edge of collapse. Whether on page or on screen, he is compelling, heartbreaking, and unforgettable. Please subscribe to the channel as I'm new and trying to grow an audience here on YouTube.